a dream come true. The bus lurched forward, and Lily squeezed Barnaby so tight his button eyes threatened to pop. Martha smoothed Lily's hair, a nervous habit. Excited, sweet pea? Lily nodded, her eyes wide as houses gave way to shops, then shops to, well, she didn't know what to call them. Buildings that scraped the sky, taller than any tree she'd ever seen. Barnaby seemed just as impressed, his fuzzy head tilted at an impossible angle. The air grew thick with noise, car horns blaring like angry geese, shouts swallowed by the rumble of engines, a distant siren wailing a mournful song. Lily pressed closer to Martha, the scent of her lavender soap a comforting anchor in the swirling chaos. Finally, the bus wheezed to a stop, and they stepped onto the grimy pavement. The city air tasted of exhaust and something else, something sharp and electric that made Lily's nose twitch. Martha gripped her hand tightly as they navigated the throng of people, each one a blur of hurried footsteps and averted gazes. Their hotel, the Grandview, wasn't so grand. It was a narrow brick building squeezed between a diner and a pawn shop, but Martha had assured Lily it was clean and safe. The room was small, with 2 narrow beds covered in floral spreads that didn't quite match. But Lily didn't care. She rushed to the window, Barnaby clutched in her arms. Below, the city pulsed. Yellow taxis swarmed like bees around a hive, buses belched black smoke, and people hurried along the sidewalks, their faces etched with purpose. Tiny figures, they looked like ants from up here. A thrill, both exciting and a little scary, shot through Lily. It's amazing, Mama. Martha smiled, relief softening the lines around her eyes. It is, isn't it? Now, let's get you settled. She opened her small suitcase and began unpacking. From the bottom, she pulled out a neatly folded t-shirt. Ta-da! Martha held it up. It was white, with a picture of Muhammad Ali in his boxing stance, his eyes blazing with confidence. I thought you might like something special for the fight. Lily gasped, her fingers tracing the image. Wow! Mama, it's beautiful! She threw her arms around Martha, Barnaby getting squished between them. The softness of the cotton against her cheek, the feel of her mother's embrace, the knowledge that she would soon see her hero, it was almost too much to bear. She pulled away and quickly changed, the t-shirt feeling like a suit of armor. She looked at herself in the small, cracked mirror. The shirt hung a little big on her small frame, but she didn't care. She was ready. The city outside still roared, but now it sounded like a battle cry, a promise of excitement and adventure. Lily clutched Barnaby tighter. Tonight, a dream would come true. The roar of the crowd. The closer they got, the denser the crowd became, a river of faces flowing towards the colossal archway that marked the arena entrance. Lily, usually bubbling with questions, fell silent, her small hand gripping Martha's with surprising strength. The air vibrated with a low hum that intensified with each step, a tangible anticipation that tickled Lily's skin. Banners depicting fierce-looking creatures flapped overhead, their vibrant colors blurring into streaks against the pale sky. Nearly there, love, Martha said, squeezing Lily's hand. Her own heart hammered against her ribs, a mixture of excitement and a prickle of unease. She kept a watchful eye on Lily, navigating the jostling bodies with practiced ease, a shield against the boisterous energy that threatened to engulf them. Passing through the archway was like stepping into another world. The noise hit Lily like a physical force, a monstrous roar compounded of 1,000 voices. It was a cacophony of shouts, cheers, and the rhythmic thumping of unseen drums that resonated deep within her chest. Lily's eyes widened, and she stopped dead, her breath catching in her throat. The arena stretched before them, a vast, echoing space dwarfing everything she had ever known. Tier upon tier of seats rose into the shadows, disappearing into the distant roof. The sheer scale of it was overwhelming, disorienting. Martha felt Lily's grip tighten further, her knuckles white. It's all right, pet, she said, bending down to meet Lily's gaze. But her words were almost lost in the din. Just look. She pointed towards the center of the arena, where figures moved busily around a large, circular platform. See? They're setting up for the games. Look at the colors. Lily's gaze followed Martha's finger, her attention snagged by the swirling patterns painted onto the platform. Crimson bled into gold, then faded into deep blues and greens. It was mesmerizing, a miniature world contained within the immensity of the arena. The distraction worked, easing the panic that had begun to creep into Lily's eyes. It's like a giant's canvas, Lily whispered, her voice barely audible. Martha smiled, relieved. That's right, love. A giant's canvas. And we're going to see a story painted on it, right before our eyes. She started walking again, pulling Lily gently along. Come on, let's find our seats. I packed us some apple slices. They moved slowly through the throng, the roar of the crowd a constant companion. Martha kept up a steady stream of chatter, pointing out interesting faces, the outlandish costumes worn by some of the spectators, anything to keep Lily from being swallowed by the immensity of the arena. She knew Lily was strong, but she was also small, and the world could be a frightening place when viewed from that perspective. Lost in the sea. The air crackled. Not just with anticipation, but with sweat and the cheap beer someone had spilled down the back of Lily's dress. The undercard fight had become a frenzy of flailing limbs and grunts. The crowd mirrored it, a living, breathing beast that swayed and roared with every punch landed. Martha held Lily's hand tight, her knuckles white. Almost over, sweetie. Martha yelled over the din, her voice tight with a worry Lily didn't understand. Lily was mesmerized. The flashing lights, the smell of popcorn battling with something metallic and vaguely unpleasant, the sheer noise, it was a sensory explosion. She bounced on the balls of her feet, trying to see past the broad shoulders in front of them. Then it happened. A roar erupted as one of the fighters went down. The crowd surged forward, a tidal wave of bodies. Lily squeezed Martha's hand harder, but it was no use. The press of bodies intensified, a solid wall shoving and pulling. Lily stumbled, her small hands slipping from Martha's grasp. Mama! She cried, twisting around, but Martha was gone, swallowed by the throng. Panic bloomed in Lily's chest, cold and sharp. She was spun around, buffeted by elbows and backs. Faces, blurry and indistinct, swam before her eyes. Each one a stranger. Mama! She screamed again, her voice lost in the cacophony. Tears welled, blurring the already chaotic scene. She felt a sharp pain in her side as someone's elbow rammed into her. Lily was adrift, a small boat lost in a turbulent sea. She tried to retrace her steps, but the crowd was a shifting maze. The spot where they had been standing moments ago was now occupied by a group of men, their faces flushed with excitement, oblivious to her distress. Each step she took seemed to lead her further away from anything familiar. The vibrant energy of the arena now felt menacing, a suffocating force that pressed in on all sides. Lily stumbled against a metal barrier, the cold steel a harsh contrast to the sweaty bodies surrounding her. She clung to it, her small fingers gripping the cool surface as if it were a lifeline. Looking around, she saw nothing but a sea of legs and jeering faces. The bright lights of the arena seemed to mock her, amplifying her feeling of isolation. She was alone, utterly and completely lost. A sob escaped her lips, followed by another and another. She closed her eyes, squeezing them shut, wishing with all her might that she could simply disappear. Mama! She whispered, the word a frail plea lost in the roar of the crowd. Tears and teddy bears. The scent of popcorn, cloying and inescapable, tickled Lily's nose, a stark contrast to the growing knot of panic in her stomach. One moment, Martha's hand had been firmly in hers, guiding her through the throng of oversized men in even more oversized hats. The next, a swirling eddy of bodies had pulled them apart, leaving Lily adrift in a sea of legs. Mommy? She called, her voice a tiny squeak swallowed whole by the roar of the crowd. Above her, faces blurred, indistinct and uncaring. Each one seemed focused on some distant point, some unseen spectacle that held no comfort for a lost little girl. She shuffled forward, pushing against a tweed-clad thigh, apologizing with a mumbled, "Excuse me." That was probably inaudible. Lily scanned the faces, hoping to catch a glimpse of Martha's familiar smile, the warm brown of her kind eyes. But there was nothing but strangers, their faces painted with excitement she couldn't share. Another "Mommy?" escaped her lips, this one laced with a tremor she couldn't control. It was no use. The noise was a relentless, pounding wave, crashing over her and threatening to drag her under. Lily squeezed her eyes shut, willing Martha to appear. When she opened them again, the crowd was no less dense, no less indifferent. A tear escaped, tracing a hot path down her cheek. Then another, and another, until a steady stream was flowing, blurring the already confusing landscape. Barnaby, her teddy bear, was clutched tightly in her arms, his button eyes staring blankly ahead. He was always there, a silent, furry confidant. Now she pressed her face into his worn fur, seeking solace in his familiar scent of dust and lavender. "Oh, Barnaby!" she whimpered, her voice muffled against his plush body. "I can't find Mommy." She wandered aimlessly, guided only by a desperate hope and the faint memory of the direction they had been heading. The lights of the arena, once so dazzling, now seemed harsh and accusatory, highlighting her isolation. "Martha?" she cried, her voice cracking with fear. This time, a sob hitched in her throat, making it even harder to speak. "Mommy, where are you?" A man in a bright yellow jacket bumped into her, barely registering her presence before continuing on his way, muttering something about getting a beer. Lily stumbled, nearly falling, Barnaby's arm flopping limply as she regained her balance. She was alone. Truly, utterly alone. The enormity of it crashed over her, a wave of despair that threatened to drown her completely. She sank to the floor, curling into a small ball, Barnaby her only shield against the overwhelming chaos. The tears flowed freely now, unchecked and unbidden, each one a testament to her growing fear. The arena, once a place of wonder and excitement, had become a terrifying labyrinth, and Lily was hopelessly lost within its walls. The champion's focus. The roar of the crowd was a physical thing, a wave that crashed against the ropes of the ring and threatened to pull him under. But Muhammad Ali stood firm, planted, a lighthouse in the tempest. He shadowboxed, a whirlwind of controlled fury. Jabs snapped, hooks arced, and his feet danced a silent rhythm on the canvas. Each punch was a meditation, each movement a prayer. His breath came in measured gasps, each exhale a release of nervous energy. He wasn't just warming up, he was forging himself anew, tempering his spirit in the fires of expectation. The air hung thick with the scent of sweat, liniment, and something else, fear. He tasted it in the back of his throat, a metallic tang that he would transform into fuel. A glance at the crowd. A sea of faces, a kaleidoscope of emotions. He saw the hopeful glint in the eyes of the young, the hardened cynicism of the old, the raw hunger of the gamblers, the fervent devotion of his fans. He absorbed it all, a sponge soaking up the energy of the arena, the collective will that hung in the air. He thrived on it. It fed him. Then he saw her. Near the aisle, a small figure, swallowed by the throng. A girl. She was crying. Not the excited, anticipatory tears of a boxing fan, but the desperate, heart-wrenching sobs of a lost child. Her small shoulders shook, and her face was crumpled in distress. A single security guard hurried past, oblivious. The world seemed to shrink, the roar of the crowd fading to a dull hum. The other fighters, the trainers, the officials, they all disappeared. There was only the girl, lost and alone in the swirling vortex of the arena. His jaw tightened. The focus, so meticulously cultivated, began to fray. He knew he should ignore it. He had a fight to win, a championship to defend. This was his moment, his destiny. But the image of her small, tear-streaked face burned in his mind, an unwelcome intrusion into his carefully constructed fortress of concentration. He couldn't shake it. He stopped shadowboxing, his movements faltering. His trainer, Angelo Dundee, noticed the hesitation and stepped forward, his brow furrowed with concern. "Champ? Everything all right?" Ali didn't answer, his gaze fixed on the girl. A wave of protectiveness washed over him, a primal urge to shield her from the harshness of the world. It was the same feeling he had for his own children, for all children. They were innocent, vulnerable, and deserved to be safe. He started to move towards the ropes, his mind racing. Was she lost? Hurt? Scared? Each unanswered question chipped away at his resolve, threatening to shatter the carefully constructed wall of focus he had built around himself. Angelo grabbed his arm, his voice sharper now. "Champ, what are you doing? The bell's about to ring. You gotta stay sharp." Ollie looked at Angelo, his eyes filled with a conflict that his trainer couldn't understand. "Just a minute, Ange," he muttered, his voice low and strained. He couldn't explain it, not now. He just knew he had to do something. He had to help. A kindred spirit. The bell remained silent, yet the crowd's energy, a palpable hum, vibrated the ring's canvas and resonated in Ali's boots. Angelo Dundee's urgent counsel filled his ears, breath a mix of heat and faint cigar tang. "Dance like a butterfly, punch like a hornet, got it?" "Like a hornet." Ali nodded mechanically. His gaze, however, strayed past Angelo, beyond the perspiring faces of his team, past the strobing camera flashes. It locked on a small figure, a child no older than 7, tucked near the aisle just beyond the glow. Her face was a mask of silent, profound sorrow. He struggled to concentrate on Angelo, on the mantra etched into his mind. Sonny Liston's arrogant sneer burned into his memory. But the girl's anguish was a relentless pull, a sour note amidst the rising crescendo of anticipation. He almost tasted her fear, the bitter tang of isolation in the roaring mass. Jab. Keep him guessing. Angelo's voice sharpened, edged with worry. He gripped Ali's jaw, demanding his attention. "This is no sideshow, kid. This is for everything." Ali blinked, the image of Liston momentarily blurring. Angelo was right. This was it. Everything he'd sacrificed for, bled for, culminated here. The girl, though. He risked another glance. Another torrent of sobs shook her small frame. She clutched a worn bear, its fur matted and stained. He saw the desperation in her search, her wide eyes darting, frantic, across the sea of faces. Internal conflict churned within him. He should be locked in, picturing the clash, feeling the adrenaline surge. He should be deaf to everything but Angelo's commands, blind to all but Liston's looming threat. Impossible. With a muttered apology, a hasty "One SEC, champ," he vaulted from the ring. A stunned silence dropped over his corner. Angelo's mouth hung open. Badini Brown, usually all playful energy, gaped. Even Ferdy Pacheco, his ever-composed doctor, arched a brow. "Ali, what in the world?" Angelo began, voice climbing in disbelief. But Ali was already moving, threading past reporters and ringside seats. He ignored their puzzled looks, their shouted questions. He had to reach her. He had to offer comfort. He knew that specific dread, that sense of being lost in a world too vast, too loud, too uncaring. He understood the weight of utter desolation. Kneeling, his large presence somehow diminished, less intimidating, he spoke gently, a stark contrast to the announcer's booming voice. "Hey there," he said softly. "What's wrong, little one?" Her tear-streaked face lifted towards him. Recognition flickered, a fragile light in the gloom. I can't find my mommy," she choked, voice thick with tears. Ali smiled, a warm, genuine smile that lit his face. "Well, don't you fret. We'll find her. I'm pretty good at that." He produced a clean, white handkerchief, offering it with a soft gesture. "First, let's dry those eyes, okay?" Shoulders of a giant. Lily was marooned, a solitary figure amidst the throng. The crowd's clamor bore down, a palpable weight stealing the air from her lungs. A blur of faces surged around her, anonymous and intrusive. The reek of perspiration and flat beer assaulted her senses. Her lip quivered, and tears blurred the already disorienting scene, painting the world in shimmering streaks. She squeezed her eyes shut, yearning to vanish. Then a shadow, not threatening, but serene, enveloped her. Peeking through her lashes, she saw immense, gleaming shoes planted like anchors before her. They mirrored the crowd's chaotic colors in miniature, polished to perfection. Her gaze traveled upward, tracing the line of a flawlessly tailored suit to a countenance that, even through her tear-filled vision, radiated kindness. He knelt, his face aligning with hers. Dark, deep-set eyes held gentle concern. "Hey there," he rumbled, his voice a soothing balm in the cacophony. "Everything all right?" Lily shook her head, a sob caught in her throat. She scrubbed at her eyes, leaving streaks on her cheeks. "Lost, are we?" He didn't need confirmation, he seemed to discern her predicament. "Tell you what," he continued, his voice reassuring. "How about a better vantage point? Sometimes, a little elevation makes things seem less daunting." Before she could voice a refusal, he formed a makeshift stirrup with his hands. "Up you go," he said, his smile a beacon of warmth. Tentatively, Lily placed her small hands in his. His grip, both firm and tender, provided a surprising lift. She gasped as the ground receded, the world transformed below. One moment swallowed by the sea of legs, the next, elevated above the churning mass, her feet dangling freely. He adjusted her carefully, settling her securely onto his broad shoulders. His strength was undeniable in the effortless way he supported her. She clutched at his head for purchase, her knuckles bone-white, but the panic was already giving way to something else. From her newly acquired height, the arena presented a different spectacle. The multitude of faces still stretched before her, yet now she discerned patterns within the chaos. She could make out the boundaries of the boxing ring, starkly illuminated by the harsh spotlights. She could see the red-jacketed ushers, navigating the crowd with purpose. The tears persisted, but no longer fueled by fear. They were tears of relief, of wonder, of newfound clarity. "Better?" he murmured, his voice a warm current near her ear. Lily nodded, a small, shaky movement. "Yes," she breathed, her voice a mere whisper against the din. He chuckled, a soft, comforting sound. "Sometimes all it takes is a different view, little one. Now shall we try and locate your family, eh?" He began to rotate slowly, his gaze sweeping the crowd with focused intensity. His shoulders, beneath her small hands, felt like the sturdiest, safest haven in the world. Searching the crowd, he stood, a gentle giant amidst the rising tide of panic. Lily, perched precariously on his shoulders, sniffled, her small hands gripping his close-cropped hair. The roar of the crowd, previously a dull thrum, now seemed to pulse with a frantic energy. Ollie slowly turned, his gaze sweeping across the faces. A sea of blurred features, shifting and swaying, greeted him. He saw concern etched on some, annoyance on others, but mostly just the blank, expectant stares of those waiting for the main event. "It's okay, Lilybug," he rumbled, his voice a calming balm against the rising anxiety that threatened to engulf her. "We'll find your mama." He adjusted his grip, mindful of her small hands digging into his scalp. The bright lights of the arena seemed to magnify the desperation in her wide, tear-filled eyes. He wished he could shield her from this jarring contrast to the carefree joy she'd exuded only moments before. Then, a wedge opened in the crowd as two ushers, their crimson jackets a stark contrast to the surrounding colors, pushed their way forward. They called out, their voices barely audible above the din. "Lily's parents? Are Lily's parents here?" One of them, a young man with a worried frown, approached Ollie. "Sir, is this the little girl?" "We've had reports. She's Lily," Ollie confirmed, his voice firm. "We're looking for her mother." The usher nodded, his eyes darting around the crowd, his hand hovering nervously near his radio. The air crackled with a nervous energy. Lily whimpered softly. Ollie squeezed her leg gently. "Almost there, sweetheart. Just keep looking." He rotated again, his height giving him a clear advantage. He scanned the rows, searching for a familiar face, a sign of recognition, anything. The smell of popcorn and stale beer hung heavy in the air, a cloying scent that usually invigorated him, but now felt suffocating. Suddenly Lily stiffened. She pointed, her small finger trembling with excitement. "There!" There she is! Mama! Ollie followed her gaze. Across the aisle, a woman was frantically waving her arms, her face a mask of relief and desperation. Her eyes, red-rimmed and swollen, locked onto Lily's. She started pushing her way towards them, her progress hampered by the dense throng of people. The other usher cleared a path, his voice rising above the noise. "Make way, please! Make way!" As Lily's mother drew closer, her pace quickened. A sob escaped her lips as she reached them, her hands reaching out to embrace her daughter. Ollie carefully lowered Lily into her mother's waiting arms. The woman clutched Lily tightly, burying her face in her hair, whispering words of comfort and gratitude. "Thank you," she choked out, her voice thick with emotion. "Thank you so much." Ollie simply smiled, a warm, genuine smile that crinkled the corners of his eyes. "Anytime. Just glad I could help." Reunited. The roar of the crowd was a physical thing, a wave that threatened to knock Lily off her feet. She squeezed her eyes shut, the flashing lights behind her eyelids making her stomach churn. Where was Mama? She'd only looked away for a second, just to watch the man in the shiny shorts bounce on the ropes. Now all she saw were legs, a forest of legs, none of them Mama's. Panic tightened its grip. Lily opened her mouth to call out, but the sound was swallowed by the cacophony. A sob caught in her throat. She was utterly, terrifyingly alone. Then, the world shifted. Suddenly, she was higher, looking down on the swirling mass of people. A large, gentle hand steadied her. She blinked, focusing on the kind face above her. It was the man, the boxer, the one Mama had been so excited to see. "Lost, little one?" he asked, his voice a comforting rumble. Lily nodded, tears blurring her vision. She pointed weakly in the direction she thought Mama had gone. Meanwhile, Martha Thompson was a woman possessed. The moment she realized Lily wasn't beside her, a cold fist had clenched around her heart. She shoved past bodies, her voice hoarse as she called Lily's name. Each "Excuse me," was edged with desperation. The smell of sweat and stale beer filled her nostrils, each whiff a fresh wave of nausea. She scanned the crowd, her gaze darting from face to face, a frantic prayer on her lips. Had someone taken her? The thought sent a jolt of icy fear through her. No, she couldn't think like that. She had to stay calm. Then, through the sea of faces, she saw her. A shock of blonde hair, a tiny, familiar silhouette perched atop broad shoulders. Relief washed over her, so potent it almost buckled her knees. "Lily!" she screamed, her voice cracking. She clawed her way forward, oblivious to the annoyed grunts and muttered curses she received. Nothing mattered but reaching her daughter. She finally broke through the last barrier of bodies and stumbled towards them. "Lily May!" Lily heard her mother's voice and twisted around, her face lighting up. "Mama!" Martha reached them, her breath coming in ragged gasps. She reached up, her hands trembling as she pulled Lily from the boxer's shoulders. She held her daughter tight, so tight Lily squeaked. "Oh, Lily," she sobbed, burying her face in Lily's hair. "I was so scared. Don't you ever wander off like that again." Lily clung to her, the fear receding, replaced by the warmth and familiar scent of her mother. "I'm sorry, Mama," she mumbled into Martha's shoulder. Martha pulled back slightly, cupping Lily's face in her hands. "Thank you," she said, turning to the boxer, her voice thick with emotion. "Thank you so much. I don't know what I would have done." She looked up at him, her eyes shining with unshed tears. "You're a true gentleman." He smiled, a genuine, heartwarming smile. "She's a sweet little girl," he said, his voice gentle. "Glad I could help." A flashbulb exploded. Martha blinked, momentarily blinded. A man with a camera lowered it, a wide grin on his face. "Got a great shot!" he exclaimed. "A real moment there." Martha barely registered the photographer. All she cared about was Lily, safe and sound in her arms. The noise of the arena faded into a distant hum. They were together. That was all that mattered.